Welcome everybody, as I'm flying in the air right now, down to Durham, alright? We taped the show a couple nights ago, and today, the University of Maryland Terrapins, that's the 3-3 University of Maryland Terrapins, take on the Duke Blue Devils, who recently got pummeled. You don't get to say that often, Wayne.
They were destroyed, they were blown up.
90-63 against the undefeated, ACC undefeated, Miami Hurricanes, coached by a guy who's starting to get some very serious respect, and that is Jim Larrañaga. Now, he didn't need to go 5-0 in the ACC to get respect after the incredible job he did at George Mason, but
some people thought he went down to South Florida to retire. I guess the answer to that
far
is
from
no.
it. He's got one heck of a team. He's got a great point guard in Shane Larkin. He is stacked, but the one thing that comes out of that game in my eyes is that when Miami played the University of Maryland, final score 54-47. What does that mean? It means Maryland's got a heck of a defense. Now we know that. And I don't know the stats, I don't have it in front of me, but my guess is they are number one in defensive field goal percentage. And meaning that the other teams shoot them poorly against them. And when you watch how Miami took apart Duke, especially with putbacks and everything like it, I have to tell you something, it bodes well for Maryland and Coach Mark Turgeon. Again, this is Bruce Posner. You're listening to Kelly and Associates Insurance Group TerpTalk this Saturday morning and every Saturday morning here on 1580, soon to be CBS Sports Radio.
Oh, that's good to hear. I'd love to be on a sports station with our TerpTalk show.
Right, it's we will be one of the featured guys now on, because we've been with them for a while, CBS Sports Radio. I'm not sure if the turnover is taken yet, but it's definitely in the works, and I hope I'm not giving away any house secrets, but I don't think I am. Listen, last Tuesday night against Boston College, the Terps won 64-59, a pretty good game. Started off slow again. Now, this slow start, if we get off to a slow start against Duke, it'll be bye-bye.
Well, see, I see it a little differently. I think with the starting five, hand-picked starting five, we get out to 7-8 points in the first few minutes, and then Maryland starts to rotate, and we stall out from that point on.
Well, I can't agree with you there, because even the starting lineup that scores, we might get 7 points in 4 minutes. That's not like a booming start.
No, but when you scored 19 points or 20 points and a half, that's not bad.
Well, I asked Turgeon about this, and he was a little upset about the question, but let's hear what he had to say. So the Terps are 3-3, and Turgeon never looks ahead past the next game, but you and me always look ahead. And somewhere along the line, we figured, we talked that we got to get to 11 wins. Now, that's a tall task when you're 3-3, because you got to go 8-4. You got 2 games against Duke, a game against Carolina, and 6 more games on the road. So it is a tall task. Can it be done? I think it can be done. I think the team's getting better. But there is no doubt that after Tuesday night's game, Jake Layman has found a home in the starting lineup.
He's got to start. He's had 2 starts, the Virginia Tech game and the BC game, and he was lights out in both of them. He's happy to be out there. He puts some bounce in the offense. He's a big guy, and he can shoot the 3.
Well, the main point about it, he finished with 14 points, very aggressive. But right now, he's about the only guy who can make an outside shot.
That's surprising, because we went out and got Logan Aaron-Holt. Seth Allen came in with a good rep as a 3-point shooter, and they're not quite lighting the house on fire, are they, Bruce?
No, hardly at all. But I'm sure they'll turn around at some point. Alex Lem was much more aggressive Tuesday night. But of course, Shaq Clear and Charles Mitchell barely played, and Padgett's almost disappearing on the bench.
Well, I have thought that you can't play 10 people forever, and one of the things that are interesting is how we keep rotating like it's more hockey shifts than a basketball game. So at this point, I'm happy to see people playing 20 plus minutes. Len played 31 minutes, and he deserved to be out there.
Let's face it, with Duke and FSU as our next 2 road games, that game Tuesday night was almost a must. It's hard to put a game down as a must, but you finish that game and you're 2-4, and you got 2 more tough road games where you could be 2-6, and you're not going to go 11-7. It just isn't going to happen.
No, and we do play better at home. We got the home crowd behind us, and at the end, Faust made a 3.
Big 3.
It was huge. We made enough free throws to get through it, and our defense shut them out. BC was starting to hit the 3 ball, but when we really turned up the defensive pressure, and I know you love our defense, BC couldn't score again.
How did you think? Now, they played Des Wells a good bit of time at the point forward. Now, if for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say the point forward, Des Wells is not a point guard. He's not going to bring the ball up. He's not going to break the press. And you know that he's had trouble with turnovers when he tries to go length of the court. The point forward is your big guy who can drive to the bucket, pull up for a shot, and yet he can handle the ball well enough to set up other players. And Des Wells wound up with 8 assists the other night. That's a lot for the amount of minutes where he was controlling the ball.
He was very effective, and he looks very comfortable having the ball in his hands in the half-court set. You're right, a lot of his turnovers came when he flies the length of the court, and he makes some spectacular layups, but he also has some spectacular turnovers. We were talking off the air, and you said that's a position, point forward, that somebody like a Kobe Bryant has played before.
Yeah, you see Kobe playing it. I mean, I think you used to see Dwayne Wade playing it a lot. In essence, that's what LeBron is, a point forward. I mean, LeBron plays as a forward, but he controls the ball when it matters. And, of course, he had one of the greatest runs to the title.
Right.
And what I'm saying is can Des Wells do that? Well, I do know one thing, that when it's come to the road this year, it's been Des Wells, the guy who has stepped up. Even though we might have lost the games, he stepped up at Carolina. He's been the guy who has scored on the road, mainly a little bit more experience or whatever, and certainly he can drive to the hoop. Anxious to see what happens with Duke today. Now, Duke, Seth Curry goes 0 for 10.
Well, he
Quinn Cook goes 1 for 12. Tyler Thornton goes 0 for 7. Now, we know that they're not going 1 for 29 against Maryland, because Maryland doesn't get that lucky, just for the record. But if they continue to shoot poorly, and we can shut down the Plumlee kid who killed us last year. Is it Mason? Yeah,
it's Mason.
You should know the name, Mason. So if we could shut this guy down, then they might have a fighter's chance of winning this game. And I never thought I would say that.
Well, I'm so pro Maryland. I always think we have a chance. There's only 2 teams playing. Somebody's going to win. Last year, when Duke came to Comcast Center, we decided to man up on Plumlee and stay out of the three-point shooter. So we left our center alone, and Mason Plumlee probably had 23 points against us last year.
Killed us. Had a career game. Had a game that had people looking at him after that particular game.
Yep.
But of course, Maryland gave him a battle last year.
We did, but we decided we'd rather die by the 2 than get killed by the 3. This year, we've really played a lot of defense on the cover and show. What that means is our big man comes out high and helps to press the ball and then chases back to his defensive target. I think if you do that against Duke, the way we've been doing it all year, it's really hard to throw the ball over Alex Len or even a James Padgett. If we play with the same defensive intensity, we do have the puncher's chance. And boy, Miami came out, and it was 15-14. Duke had the lead. And Miami is staffed by a group of seniors, and they are men, big athletic players on that Miami team, and they defensively shut Duke down. So
punched them in the mouth is the way I like to say it. They punched Duke in the, and you know what? It was like really amazing. Look at Krzyzewski's face during that game. I've never seen him so mad. He was like mad.
Well, you said you saw him that mad one other time when he went and yelled at the Duke students when Maryland was playing down there.
Yeah, well, Maryland was playing last year, and the Duke students, in his opinion, were just too quiet. And he came over at halftime screaming, "We don't sit down at Duke, we stand the whole time." And it's interesting there, and the dynamic of the press sitting right in front of the students is interesting. They're pressing up against you, and you hear that noise, and it's fascinating the way they run down there. But it makes for a great win when you can pull the upset. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Maryland's won more than anybody has won down there over the last 15 years.
Oh, as much as anybody.
Right. I mean, Gary had a couple of runs of winning 2 or 3 in a row. I think Gravis had 2 wins down there.
Right.
And I wonder who they'll pick on this year. I guess Alex will be the target.
Well, he's a big target, and he can take it. So you were talking about Alex playing with intensity, but you also, when you watch the game, he gets beat up, and he doesn't get any of the calls.
He gets nothing, and I think, glad you brought that up, because I think that he needs to be a little bit more assertive as far as, I hate to say complaining or whatever, but everybody flops against him, and he is such a powerful guy. And then the other day, it really got me upset. He kind of backed into one of the BC guys, knocked him about 10 feet, went over, helped the guy up, and the guy starts posturing against him.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex was just being like a nice guy.
There's no room. Well, usually they say the nice guys finish last. You sit much closer to the court down in the press section. From where I was, about 10 rows higher up, it almost looked like Alex didn't touch him, but the guy did sort of fly backwards a good distance.
Well, I think he touched him. I think, it doesn't take much for a guy that strong. And I'll tell you what, I forgot who it was from Boston College who kind of challenged him, but one punch from Alex Len could, and not only end the guy's career, could end his life.
It could.
Alex is a force physically now.
So
he wasn't, but he is now.
Well, he's in Kyle Tarp's strength program. He played 31 minutes. We see him all the time, so sometimes I overlook what he brings to the game, but you talk to a lot of the opposing, you get the view from the other side. What do the rest of the ACC players and coaches think?
Well, they all scheme against Alex. I mean, and the way to play him, they think, is to be rough at him. I think you saw Boston College went right at him.
And they brought in some 7-footers off the bench
right.
to try and pull that off.
They went right at him. But we got to head out to our first break. But before we do, I want to introduce a new segment and a new sponsor. That, of course, is Mervis. And Wayne is going to do the DC Minute each week. Wayne, take it away. And we welcome Mervis Diamonds to the TerpTalk family.
Well, as Bruce said, Mervis Diamond Importers in D.C., Rockville, and Tyson's Corner. That you can reach them at 703-448-9000. Nobody pays retail anymore. Why should you when you're in the market for a diamond? Call Mervis. Our D.C. Sports Minute this week really centers around the 0-2 Caps, who are in the midst of, I guess they're going to be 0-3 at this point.
Losing to Montreal 2-0 in the second period. This team's got problems. Now, it's awful early, but remember, you got a 48-game schedule.
They got a 48-game schedule, and right now they seem to be a bit of a mess. They got Adam Oates, who was a great Cap. He wore number 77 and went to the Stanley Cup Finals with the team about 13 years ago. He comes back as a coach. It's his first NHL coaching gig. He had Alex Ovechkin playing right wing. For those who follow the Caps, he's usually a left wing. He's bringing guys up from the fourth line to the first line. Nobody seems to know where to go.
Chaos!
It is. It is chaos. It's killing me. I'm a Caps fan. Boy, they almost sell at the Verizon Center every night. There's 24 home games. 22 left as of this radio show. We're 0-3. Something's got to be done, but our Sports Minute is, if you're listening at home and a Caps fan, do you think we can make the Stanley Cup playoffs with this mess we've got? 0-3 early in the season. Oh, it's painful to watch.
This is Bruce Posner. You're listening to Kelly and Associates Insurance Group TerpTalk. Again, we welcome in Mervis Diamonds to the TerpTalk family. We'll be back here in just a few minutes on 1580. I guess it was gov.biz radio, but soon to be CBS Sports Radio 1580.